Hello, everyone, and welcome to the English Hour. Today, I have a special guest. My friend John is here in the office with me, and he came from London. And I really thank him for being here because we've been planning to do this for a while, and now seems to be the perfect time. Hi, John. Can you introduce yourself? Like, who are you?
First of all, Hussein, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. My name's John. I live in London, and I'm here on holiday.
Okay. Well, I guess the listeners will appreciate the fact that you use a British accent. Most Turkish students are exposed to the American accent more because, the American accent is more dominant through Hollywood and stuff. Are there any English movies that are very popular around the world, or are there movies that are your favorite?
I mean, there's a lot of English movies at the moment on Netflix, which one being is my favorite is Peaky Blinders. But the problem with that is there's a lot of Irish. When you're watching that, while you're watching it, you'll see that there's a lot of Irish accents. So I don't want people to be confused.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For example, there was one on Netflix, and I think it's Line of Duty. Have you heard of it?
Oh no, I haven't.
Okay. It's a police detective type of story.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
I think it's in the third season right now, and I've watched it and enjoyed it.
It's good.
But I think the English sense of like the English approach to movie production is a lot different from the American one, because like when I was watching it, like the camera angles and the plot and the storyline, it all felt very different from what we were used to.
Yeah, I think every different country has its own unique way of recording, with their media, different filters and different angles, as you said.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is gonna be interesting because like a lot of listeners here. For example, most of our listeners are people who are trying to improve their English skills. Like it could be the listening skill, writing, speaking skills, and so on. So a lot of our listeners are people trying to live in a global world. They want to access information. They want to travel the world, noble causes, right? Yep. Or simply for entertainment. And it's great to see examples. It's great to see people who master the language, or it's even greater to see people who are brought up in a bilingual environment. And I think you were brought up in a bilingual environment. Your parents are Turkish, but you grew up in London. So how was it like? For example, a lot of bilingual people do not really realize that they're learning two languages at the same time. How was it for you? Like, how was the experience of learning and using two languages at the same time in your childhood or in your teenage years? Like, can you give us a history?
Yeah, so, for any Turk that's born abroad, for example, I was born and raised in the UK. So we would learn Turkish at home. Sure. Our parents speak Turkish to us. And then at the age of 3, kindergarten stage, you start school. You don't know any English, so you've got that kind of disadvantage in the beginning. But as you're a child, you pick up very quickly. So you just learn on the go. That's how I learned English. That's how every person that is born in a different country, from their background, they learn it at school. And yes, being bilingual has its advantages. Growing up knowing two languages. The English kids envy us. They're like, I wish I knew two languages.
Oh, really?
I wish I knew Spanish. I wish I knew this, Turkish ain't their favorite, but...
Yeah.
But they do want to be bilingual. And
there's this joke. What do you call a person who speaks two languages? A bilingual person. What do you call a person who speaks 3 languages? Trilingual. What do you call a person who speaks just one language? An American.
That's spot on, absolutely.
Because
they don't know any other languages, do
they? There were
unless you're South American.
Yeah, there were American politicians who said, if English was good enough for Jesus, it should be good enough for everyone. But ignoring the fact that Jesus did not speak English at all, it was like some sort of Hebrew back then.
Yeah, English is the universal language, let's be honest. But being bilingual is definitely much more cooler than, you know, just knowing one language.
I'll talk about the English teens. Like, for example, when I had English friends, like British friends, they were very interested in moving to, like, going to Italy, going to France, like trying to sort of experience the culture. But there are some studies saying that like the interest of the British kids in learning other cultures and languages is kind of decreasing. But a lot of Brits also go to Spain, I think. Some holiday there, some move there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are the dynamics of the English population? Or when I was in London, like when I was working in London, it was interesting to see that there were so many international students, people, residents, and so on. But the Brits, like the native people, were not really around.
No, absolutely.
And it was like London was like a deserted place when it comes to the native population. So it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, London's very multicultural. It's very diverse. There's so many different, you know, nationalities, ethnicities, and so on. A lot of the Brits actually moved outside to London. So the original English...
To the countryside.
Yeah, to the countryside, just outside, you know, going far up north or south. London's like, you know, it's a big population, but the English is very minimal at the moment.
I see.
So that's why you start getting a lot of these, you know, English Defence League, for example, these racist groups and stuff, where they're like, oh, you know, we want our rights and we want everyone out of here. You know, a lot of the people that voted for Brexit are the ones that are, you know, far right.
That's true.
They're very, you know, nationalistic, and they want, the reason why they voted Brexit is to get rid of the immigrants. And
I mean, it was very sad to hear stories of people being attacked in London, especially during or after the Brexit vote, like Polish people being attacked and so on. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. Like, this is not the London I lived in, or this is not the London that I have in my mind. Yeah. It was very sad.
It is. I mean, you know.
And like, I've also heard several incidents of knife cases, like people being murdered and stuff.
I think till now, from 2019, I think there's been about 42 deaths by knife crime. It's always on the rise for some reason. Actually, I know the reason.
What is it?
The police force, there's been a massive cut on the police force. So
really?
The amount of police officers we have on the streets is reduced significantly. So the less police there is, the less stop and search. You know, stop and search when they stop the people and search them, see if they've got any, you know, an offensive weapon on them. That's all. It's literally like there's hardly anything like that anymore.
I see.
So more people are carrying knives, and that's why.
I see. Okay, so I'd like to move on to a different topic. Mm-hmm. So you were born in London, right? You have your family. Do you have most of your family in London?
Yeah. My parents are in London. I've got a lot of family here in Turkey, in Istanbul and Trabzon. Yeah. But yeah, my parents...
by the way, we're both from Trabzon.
both from Çaykara.
Not Çaykara. Well,
you're not from Çaykara?
I'm from a different district.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we're close. Yeah. Like, my little brother studies in Çaykara.
Okay.
See? We're close. Okay. For example, how would you compare? A lot of people who live in a multicultural environment experience a sort of cultural conflict. Sometimes, you know, cultures are very different. Yeah. Like if you live in a multicultural environment, there might be conflicts or there might be some parallels between those two cultures. Yeah. And I can imagine our cultures being very different in some cases to the British culture. So have you experienced such conflicts or problems, or like how did you deal with those, or do you still experience those multicultural issues?
I mean, I think as it's getting more and more multicultural, it's getting better, and it's we're kind of like adapting. Like before, I think like from 15, 20 years back, there was like a lot of racism because there was more English and less, you know, other ethnicities. But now, because it's so mixed, it's like everyone's accepted. And like, for example, you wouldn't find one English person working in like a supermarket or at a coffee shop, you know, at a cafe or so. It's all like the Turks, the Indians, you know, the Polish. So it's just very like diverse. If you're talking about culture clashes, I mean, they celebrate Christmas there. We celebrate our Eid. We stay away from stuff like pork. We can find halal meat everywhere. So in that sense, it's really good. And they do actually respect, like the British government. In that sense, they're really good. Democratic. They accept. They respect your religion and so on. I could take time off work if it's Eid. It's
Yeah,
benefits are there.
Sounds good, really good. Yeah. I mean, I was working in England, in London for 3 months. Like I worked as an intern, and like in our office, like I was the Turkish intern, and then I had 2 friends, like a French intern and a German intern. Like we were part of an English company, and then there were a lot of project managers. I mean, of course, there were some Brits in the company, but a lot of people were from different ethnicities. Like there were Turkish project managers, Spanish project managers, I guess Polish project managers, and so on. I was like, okay, well, this is London, but we have a lot of people from various countries in the office, and it felt great, kind of, because as you said, you feel accepted, you feel part of the whole. It feels like it belongs to no one. Yeah. Like it belongs to everyone.
Absolutely.
So you feel okay. You feel great.
That's exactly the case. And I work for a large company, and we have like, I'd say, 80 different nationalities working in our company.
Really?
Yeah. Like, for example, the tech guys would be, from Poland and, Ukraine. A lot of Eastern Europeans are in our tech department because I guess
they're really talented.
Yeah. In that sense. We get Chinese people, Indians, Pakistanis, Turks, Greeks, all over. So I think the reason why companies do this is obviously one, the law is really strict in UK. You can't just recruit, white people or English people. You have to at least give them a chance and interview them. It's the same with gender equality as well.
Yeah.
But the reason why companies recruit people from all over the world is because everyone has a unique skill set. They think differently.
It's a competitive advantage.
Exactly. It's talent acquisition. You're bringing talent in from different countries.
Sure. Talent that you would otherwise not be able to tap into. Mm-hmm. Okay. For example, one of the things that was very interesting to me when I first came to London. I mean, I've been to London several times, and I've also been to the northwestern part, like Bangor and stuff.
Okay, is that Cardiff near Wales?
I guess. It's in Wales.
More like countryside.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's very different from.
Not as beautiful as Chaikara, but
yeah, it's beautiful. I really liked it. But it's very different from London, of course.
Yeah,
it felt like a small village with a functioning infrastructure.
Yeah,
it's like a village, but it has a functioning infrastructure. So, like when I first stepped foot in London, I was like, "Oh my God, where are the skyscrapers?" The first I was living in South Wimbledon, and there were a lot of properties that had gardens. Like there were maybe 2-story buildings and so on with gardens. I was like, oh, this is beautiful. But, since like when you come to Istanbul or compare it to Istanbul, like,
or even New York, right?
Or New York, right? Here we're used to, it's not the ideal. At first I was like when I was thinking of London, imaginary London, I was like, okay, one of the biggest cities in the world, and so on. I was like, okay, there are not skyscrapers. And I was like, what is this? Then I realized, okay, skyscrapers or high-rise buildings they do not mean advances in civilization. No. And I came to appreciate the fact that, it's called, I think, I'm not sure if it's called vertical or horizontal building. I'm not quite sure.
Horizontal would be flat.
Yeah. For example, some cities grow sideways. Some cities grow upwards, right?
Okay.
With high-rise buildings. In the case of London, I guess And it's there also difficult to change buildings in London.
Absolutely.
So you're not even allowed to change your windows.
No. Getting planning permission is like impossible there.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like here, you can pretty much do anything. Like, I mean, of course, there are some rules, but they're not very strict. But
do you know what, Hussein? I'm actually surprised because I was asking someone yesterday when I was driving around looking at the houses. I was like, why don't they, sort out the outside of this house, make it more, modern? And he said, we can't. You're not allowed,
Really?
Yeah. In Istanbul, you're not.
But in some regions, there are tougher restrictions. For example, if you're talking about the region along the Bosphorus, you cannot really make any changes.
Yeah.
Or if you want to renovate something, you should stick to the original plan.
Yeah.
But in other areas, it's, I guess, much.
But you should surely be able to decorate it right outside. Just make it look more.
You should be able to.
Okay.
I guess you should.
I guess you just can't change the thing of it, the architecture of it,
maybe
how it looks.
Yeah.
So
For example, there are some mentions along the coastline, like old ones built from like wood and stuff, not concrete ones, and most of them have been rebuilt recently with their original plan in mind. Like they look like they were built in like maybe 1800s.
Yeah,
they look beautiful.
Yeah,
they're new. They look beautiful, but they give that aura of the 18th or 19th century.
But in UK, it's definitely stricter.
Yeah,
it's absolutely like impossible to get planning permission. And the reason why there's not many skyscrapers, I mean, we have the Shard, which is the tallest building in Europe.
Really?
It looks beautiful, yes.
Is it the tallest?
Yes, that's what I was told anyway.
Yeah, everyone says we have the tallest stuff.
I mean, Burj Khalifa is probably the tallest building in the world, but I was told that the Shard is the tallest building in Europe, and it's it's amazing, right?
It is.
I don't know if you've seen it. You must have seen it.
It's in central London.
Yeah.
I was close to my office.
It's near like South London Bridge.
Yeah.
Not far from South Wimbledon where you stayed.
No, I stayed in South Wimbledon, but my office was in central London.
Okay.
Very close to the Shard and stuff.
Yeah, it should be closer, we don't have many skyscrapers.
I was taking the Northern Line.
Yeah. Oh my God, I hate that line. I hate
it's very long.
That's my worst line because you have two different ways where normally the tube underground service in London is very it's amazing, right?
Yeah, it is. It's very extensive.
Very straightforward. But the Northern Line is a bit more complicated because you get one going that way and then the other one going that way and it mixes. You have to get off and get another one, and it's just.
Well, it's a challenge to get out of the cabins, the train, the carriages during rush hours.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh God.
I avoid
it's
the rush hour.
It's so jam packed.
I would avoid the rush hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. So, John, how does it feel come back to Turkey? Like, for example, I guess since most of your life, I think, has been in London, right?
Yeah.
Not in any other city. How often do you come to Turkey, like to Istanbul and stuff?
I come to Turkey about 4 to 5 times a year.
Really?
Because I really do love it. I don't go to Trabzon that often.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of family in Trabzon.
You talk about Çaykara, but you don't go there. You talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk.
Absolutely. No, because going to Trabzon is like I have to get on another plane, and it's not convenient.
Yeah.
So I go there probably once a year, and then the rest I'll just stay in Istanbul.
Do you have your elders there?
Yeah, I do. Elders. I have in China.
Your grandma, your grandpa and stuff?
Yeah.
In
well, no, my grandparents, all of them passed away. But their siblings and stuff, in Bayburt as well.
You should go pick some nuts in the summer.
Yeah.
Do you have land there?
Yeah, I know.
For example.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we have land in Trabzon. My parents are in Trabzon, and around August they start picking hazelnuts.
Yeah, hazelnuts.
It's the time.
Tea.
And they really need help around that time frame.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's amazing how their work ethic is, right?
Yeah.
Even the women,
women
are even more
more hardworking in the Black Sea region, especially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a joke. They say man simply spend time in coffee houses or
playing cards,
playing
games.
Cards, like in Turkish they're called kıraathane, right?
Yeah.
It's not an English thing.
No.
Yeah.
You
like
can't really
tea
translate
house
that.
or something.
Yeah.
They hang out with their buddies.
In UK, it would be an arcade.
Oh, really?
Or casino.
Might be, yeah. Well, they hang out with their buddies, but then their wives work really hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's changing.
Yeah, it is. It has to change. It's a shame, right?
Yeah. What do you like about Istanbul? Like, what do you find in Istanbul that you're not able to find in London? Or what do you find in London that you're not able to find in Istanbul? How would you compare two cities? Because to me, these two, I mean, there are of course similarities, but there are also many differences between these two cities.
Yeah.
The experience, the people, the places, the food, everything.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Just give us a comparison. Like, how do you feel when you come to Istanbul? How do you feel when you go back to London? What are the the pros and cons?
Amazing question, Hussein. I mean, people ask me, why do you always go to Istanbul? Like, 5 times a year. Why
Come see yourself.
Yeah. No, even if they've been before, like my Turkish friends in UK, they're like, I mean, I've done
go to Spain.
Yeah, no, but I've been to pretty much every single European country, apart from Switzerland. That's next on the bucket list.
Yeah.
Definitely want to visit.
It looks beautiful. It looks like Trabzon and Rize.
It does, yeah.
But with a more modern twist.
Yeah.
And more proper planning.
Yeah,
I would say
they have the best system.
Yeah, looks beautiful. They preserve the nature, but they also are an advanced civilization. I would say.
Interesting. In fact, this morning I read on The Economist, they have the highest percentage of millionaires, 7.5%. Wow. The nearest one to them was like UK's like 1%. Think about it. I see. So
they're very well off.
Yeah. It's because of the system they have in place. They're asgari ücret. So their minimum wage. Their minimum wage is like 4,000 francs.
But then the thing is, the life expenses are also very high.
Absolutely, really high. A lot of people that live in Switzerland.
Yeah.
They drive to Germany, fill up their petrol and their food, and then go back to Switzerland.
It's smart.
Yeah. As I was saying, Istanbul, I just love it. I can't. Every time I go to the city, I'm going there with excitement because I just love everything. I mean, the food, especially.
Yeah, give us your favorites. Like the favorite things about this city. Your favorite things.
Favorite thing about the city would be the view.
Yeah.
The mosques.
Yeah.
We don't get the azan in London, unfortunately. So I really do miss that. I love it. And then the food. Also, I'm a big Galatasaray fan.
Really?
Yeah. So every time I come, I do go to the games.
Really?
Yeah.
So you time your stays here?
Sometimes, so So if there's a big game coming up, like against Fenerbahce, or I'll just make sure I'm down.
Yeah, I always find that interesting. I've been here for years. I've only been once to a game, and I don't really.
You don't enjoy football?
Really I mean, I enjoy playing football and maybe watching it on TV from several angles and analyzing the moves and stuff. But the one time I went to a game, I felt like, okay, I mean, I was just looking around and then someone scored a goal. I missed it.
And then you missed it and then there's no replay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of annoying. And there's no commentary,
yes.
And that's kind of what makes it exciting and fun, especially with Ercan Taner. But I mean, the reason why I love to watch Galatasaray is because it's a passion, like something you can't explain. You have a passion for that club, right?
Sure.
It's like, these are kind of the things that drag me to this city.
Do you have your favorite Turkish food or desserts and stuff?
I mean, stuff like kebab and that you have in London. We have so many Turkish restaurants.
But some are horrible, some are great. For example, I guess there was one. I mean, there is still one. It was called Babaji Pide or something.
Oh yeah, in Oxford Street. Did you not like it?
I liked it.
Oh, okay.
It was great.
Because they opened another one next to my house. I'm so happy.
Really?
I can't wait.
That's great. I loved it. And there were people lining up in front of this restaurant from Turks from Oxford and stuff. They were in London, and they were like, okay, we're here. We should come eat some proper food and then go back. And it had a lot of international customers as well.
Yep.
And I really liked it. It was beautifully designed. The food was delicious, and everything was fine, and I was happy to find such a place.
Yeah.
But there are also, like a lot of smaller restaurants or kebab shops which are not great. Like, which do not really represent the Turkish cuisine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get loads of takeaways, like kebabs and stuff, kebab houses. The thing is, in London, a lot of the 99% of the kebab shops are run by Turks, which is a good thing, because if you go to like Spain, Italy, Portugal, wherever, all the kebab shops are run by Indians. And
they're horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like, No,
the thing is, once we were in Spain, I think we were in Barcelona, and they have a famous street, a long street that you can walk along. It's like, I think, like Taksim Beyoğlu.
Okay.
Comparable. And there were two kebab shops, restaurants, one at the beginning and one at probably the end of that famous street.
Yeah.
Like, they were both named Istanbul Kebab or something.
They always do that, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this sounds familiar. Let's try this. And then I ordered, and the food that I had was horrible. I couldn't even finish it. Like, I left the place. Like, I was with my family. I left the place, and then...
Did you get food poison?
Well, yeah, I mean, I felt bad, and then I found, I think, a Lebanese restaurant, a good one, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Like, the Lebanese food is also great.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, the proper
Do you know what it is,
Lebanese food.
Honestly, it's not about fine dining. Like, you go to a luxury restaurant, and then they put one little cherry on the plate, a little bit of sauce, and then it's like so expensive, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about going to these like old school traditional, like, for example, there's Iraqi, Afghani restaurants in London.
Yeah.
You would go in there thinking, oh, I wonder how the food's going to be. You'll be questioning it.
I haven't tried them.
But the portion, the plate, the rice they do, everything is so amazing. Like a lamb shank, you would eat your fingers. You'll finish the whole plate.
Really?
Yeah, and you love it.
I haven't tried any of those.
And it's a lot cheaper than these fine dining things.
Sure.
Next time you come to London, make sure I'll take you.
You'll help me out, right?
Inshallah.
Okay, that's great. So, when you come to Istanbul, is there anything you miss about London? Or what do you... Of course, I guess there would be things that you miss about London.
Do you know what? Not really. I mean, okay, I was brought up in London, and the reason why I feel more like a Turk than London.
Yeah, Londoner
or English. Yeah, because a lot of Turks that are born in London, in the UK, a lot of them feel more English. Like
that's true.
Like, I see it. It's quite interesting. You see them support England in the World Cup, and I'm like, what the hell? I don't give a damn about England, like literally, But anyway, the reason why I feel more like a Turk is because my dad, he's very like nationalist, milliyetçi,
I see.
And when I was in London, growing up, if I was speaking English in the house, he would like slap me.
Oh, God.
He would be like, you need to speak Turkish. You learn your English in school. In this house, you're speaking Turkish. And honestly,
it's like the separation of state and the church.
Yeah, literally. And that's why I feel more like a Turk. So that's why I really do love coming to Turkey. And what London, the good thing about London is like the system.
Yeah.
The life is more comfortable there.
It is. It's more organized.
Yeah, and you got more rights and benefits, like for example, employment in London, in UK, annual leaves, your sick pay and stuff like that. You may not get here, What else? Traffic. The traffic in Istanbul is a nightmare.
It is.
If there was no traffic in Istanbul, it's the most beautiful place anyway to live in. So,
or if the underground system was as extensive as the one in London.
London, yeah, possibly. Because I'm not sure. I've used a metro here a couple times.
It's fine. It's getting better.
Better,
yeah. The lines are expanding.
There
are different connections right now, but it's not like a blanket that covers the whole city. Okay. It's far from that. But I mean, I guess we'll get there, but I'm not sure when. Yeah. There is this interesting experience of mine. So I think it was Ramadan or something, and I was going to a museum in London. There are beautiful museums in London.
Natural History Museum.
I really love them. There are Science Museum, Natural History Museum, the British Museum, and so on. I was going to the museum. I took the subway or the underground, whatever you call it. You know, the word changes between cultures.
Yeah.
So I was fasting, so I was very tired. I took the subway and I was trying to get to the museum, and then I took off at a stop, and then I was trying to find my way around, and then I saw a sign, subway to the museum, and I was like, okay, great, then I'll just hop on the train and it'll get me to the museum. Then I started walking and walking and walking and walking and walking, and then I found myself in front of the museum. Then it dawned on me that the Brits use subway differently than the Americans.
Yes. So, yeah, okay, now I understand.
I was like, okay.
It's
so
for walking, basically.
This is a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So for the Americans, subway means underground, the train, the lines.
With the train, yeah.
But for the Brits, it's like an underground passage from one place to another.
So you could cross the road because
using the
underpassage because overground the roads they don't have many subways in London. It's probably where, like Hyde Park Corner, for example, the junction is so busy they won't do it. They don't have any like traffic lights for pedestrians, so you need to go underneath.
So I was like, okay, so I was expecting a train, then I realized, okay, this is England, this is London, so a subway means basically a passage, not a train line or anything.
It's different, right? We studied this in global marketing. Every country has its unique, like for example, to franchise a McDonald's in China is different to doing it here in Turkey, or for example in Turkey compared to UK. Here the meat has to be halal.
That's true. Maybe in Saudi Arabia and so on.
Exactly, you can't have pork, And in China, the McDonald's, the building, the architecture is actually like a temple, like a Chinese temple. It's very interesting.
But I think it really pays to consider the preferences of the local culture.
Of course, that's what it's down to.
You cannot really force your preferences to a local population. If you try it, in most cases,
you most likely won't succeed. You have to cater to that local community, to the society. It's interesting. Yeah.
Well, John, are there things that you'd like to say about your experience? For example, how was your school life like? Like, how was the kindergarten? How was the primary school? How was the high school and college? What did you study in college?
In college, actually, I've been to college twice.
Really?
Yeah. So
you got 2 diplomas?
Well, if you're talking about university, I studied business management.
Yeah.
College in UK is not like college in America.
In the American system.
Yeah.
What is it?
College is pre-university.
Really?
So it's like after high school.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
It's like post-secondary education or something. It's like vocational training?
It's like...
it's interesting.
So you'll do primary school, where from childhood to, like in Turkey it's called ilkokul, and then ortaokul would be secondary school. In America they call it high school.
Middle school.
Secondary school we call it.
Okay.
And then you would go to college for 2 years.
Oh, interesting.
Normally you do your A levels, which will get you into university.
So college is where you do your A levels. Interesting. I didn't know that.
But I didn't do my A levels. So first,
this is interesting. I didn't know that. For example, I thought college would be the same for the American, because you can use the word college interchangeably with university in the American system. Because like you can call Harvard a college or a university. A university would be simply a more established institution.
Yeah, it's not the case with London, with UK.
So this is a different
college is
story.
College, university is university.
You're teaching me. I appreciate it.
That's fine. You're the professor. You should be teaching me.
Well, we all have things to learn from each other.
It's like you taught me anonym şirketi here, right?
Sure, incorporated.
Yeah. So I studied business management in university. Yeah. Before that, I was really into sports. I was in college.
You were planning to intern with Ercan Taner.
No, I actually play football myself. I was playing semi-professional football in London, and I studied at a football academy.
Whoa.
Yeah. Interestingly, and I also done automotive engineering for a little while, but then I got bored, so I jumped into then I just had a gap year and stuff, and then started university. I was doing my university while working for the company, so I was learning, and it was really related. So
that's great.
Yeah, so I was in business development, and then studying business management at the same time. It was like interrelated, and it was helping me do my work, and then studying was helping me do my work. So,
I guess the best scenario, like if you work at a job and study in a related field, both feed each other.
Absolutely, because usually you study, you finish you get your diploma, and then you look for work, right? And then you start. I was getting the experience while I'm studying, so
that's a huge
it worked
bonus.
well for me. Yeah,
it worked. So, for example, I mean, I had Turkish friends, like Turkish guys born and raised in the UK when I was working there, and I realized that most of their English was kind of broke.
Okay. I mean,
some had great English, but some were. It might be about neighborhoods and so on. So I found that a lot of Turks were hanging out with,
Turks.
Sometimes Turks, sometimes with black guys and stuff.
This is the problem, Hussein. When people come to London to learn English, okay, it's great. You get to experience the culture. You really live UK, London, and studying there would be an ideal scenario.
Yeah.
But if you're going to a class with Turks, so there's 10 Turks, let's say, for example, in the class, and after that class ends, if you're talking about kanka ne yapalım, nereye gidelim falan, then it's kind of like it defeats the
purpose.
Exactly, because you need to, if you're going to that country, you should just speak fully English for that whole week or wherever you're staying there.
I mean, I think in those cases, I warn my students against such scenarios. I say, if you're gonna do that, it's simply an overpriced holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, for example, this is another good point to talk about. A lot of students think that, John, this is interesting. I think this is a Turkish thing, but maybe it can be generalized to other cultures as well. So a lot of Turk students think that if they step on the English soil, they will somehow magically improve their English.
I wish that was the case.
I'm like, oh God, this is not the case. It's like they think that, a lot of people think that to improve their English, they have to go abroad. Like the first time I went abroad, the first time I've been abroad was my trip to the US for an internship when I was like 20 or something. And by then my English was already good. I did not have any problems so on. And it strikes me as interesting, and I think it's kind of an excuse because in order to improve your English, you have to make plans. You have to study regularly and stuff. There are things that you should do. There is some effort that is needed to reach that goal, and a lot of people, I guess, use the excuse of not being able to go abroad as a way to sort of justify their lack of work, lack of effort. Yeah, kind of.
I think choosing that option of going to, let's say, England to learn English is a good thing if you can. If you've got if you're capable of doing it, it's a good thing in a sense of experiencing it, but it's not a necessity. You could learn English staying in Turkey as long as you're constantly studying. You don't want to forget the stuff you learn. That's very important. Yeah. Because at the moment I'm trying to learn Arabic and I keep forgetting because I'm not practically, using it. Exactly. So practicality is very important. Sure. So constantly using, even talking to yourself. No one's going to think you're crazy. You're just going to be home alone. Yeah. And just, do it. Just, recite the words
That's true.
Can I ask you a question,
Sure.
Hussein, as you're a professor, you're a great English teacher?
I've asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And you can ask
it's very
me a
simple.
lot of questions.
I'm sure people have asked you, your students have asked you. I mean, I know English, but I would like to know, to learn another language, does watching Netflix with, for example, an English show with maybe Turkish subtitles or even English subtitles, does that really help you with learning the language?
It helps, but it's not the best way.
Okay.
I mean, for example, let's talk about Arabic.
Yeah.
The case of Arabic. So, and in learning, you have to really consider the circumstances like the age, the background, and so on. For example, the way a child should be instructed or should be guided in language learning is different from the way an adult should be instructed, because you as an adult, you have a working knowledge of the world, grammar, your reading and writing skills are functioning. So you can really use them to accelerate your learning. In the case of Arabic, for example, you can watch a lot of Netflix movies with Arabic sound, and it definitely helps with your pronunciation, with your ears. But if you constantly watch Arabic with like English subtitles to understand it, then it won't really help. I mean, it will help, but it won't be the best use of your time. For example, when it comes to listening, when it comes to grammar, when it comes to vocabulary development, it really helps to first understand the basic structure of the language. It's like, for example, when I'm teaching someone English, I first try to help them understand the landscape. Like, what kind of a language is English? For example, like the order of words. For example, in Turkish, the verb comes at the end. In English, the verb comes after the subject. So, like, I try to teach my students the basics of the language, the landscape, like the word structure, the word order, basic tenses, so that they can form simple sentences. Because it helps them use the language from day one.
Absolutely. If you teach them the fundamentals, foundation,
they can build on top of that.
They can build the vocab.
That is
if
true.
you learn the vocab first and then you don't know the grammar and the stuff, then it's going to be difficult, right?
Yes. So I'm trying to give them the driving skills needed to maneuver. So I give them driving skills, and then they can improve their English or German or French, whatever that is, by studying more. So if you know the fundamentals of how a certain language works, like the basic grammar, but there are certain traps. A lot of people spend way too much time on grammar. So they try to learn all the details of grammar, memorize everything from a book. But that's not the best use of your time. Because think of this. It's like driving. So you learn driving best by driving.
Of course.
You should learn what the steering wheel does, what the acceleration pedal, the brake pedal does, how the gearbox works and so on, the mirrors and stuff. You should definitely know that from a theoretical perspective. But in order to master the game, you have to hit the road, right?
Absolutely.
And over time, your driving skills improve. It's just like that with languages. So you should learn the basics. Like I teach, as I said to my students, how to form a sentence, how to form a question, how to form requests and stuff, and how to learn a word and how to structure their thinking and their research. I give them the basic tools, and then they read, they listen, but not their complex stuff, because the complexity also matters. Because if you give your students very complex stuff, then it kills their motivation.
Absolutely.
There is this theory called, or this approach called zone proximal development. It basically says that in order to motivate students to learn, you should give them material that is not too easy or not too difficult. It should be just a little bit above their current
keep the
level.
Momentum going.
To keep the momentum going. So that's how I approach it. So, I mean, if I were learning Arabic from scratch, I would basically try to get a 10,000 view of the language. Like, what is Arabic? How does it work? Like, what is the sentence structure? How are the words like how... I
mean, it's really complicated. Because there's masculinity, there's femininity.
I'd try to understand the basic landscape. Then I'd try to learn how to form basic sentences. And I'd try to learn how to analyze sentences. Because there are two stages to language acquisition. For example, one is comprehension, the other is production. So, for example, think about babies. Babies, when you're a baby, you don't start speaking right away, do you? No. You spend first 1 to 2 years of your life simply absorbing information. It's the comprehension state. You absorb information. You take in all you hear.
Subconsciously?
Yes, consciously and subconsciously, both ways. Because your parents speak around you, your family, your friends and stuff. You're a baby, you simply absorb everything like a sponge. And then, as you absorb everything, you start realizing patterns. So this is like a subconscious process. You start observing patterns. For example, you see that every time your mom gives you water, she says water. Yeah. Then you make the connection. Okay, this water. Thing means water. Or every time your parents refer to past, they say yesterday, or they add an ed to verbs. Then you start realizing patterns. So the first stage is comprehension. Because you need first data, then you analyze it, you drive the rules, and then you produce. So you can take a similar route. And I mean, my goal in the first stages of learning a language is not production, it's comprehension. So, for example, if I'm learning Arabic...
So even as an adult,
yes.
The example you gave was a baby, but even as an adult, you comprehend?
Yeah, sure, because in order to be able to produce, you should have the vocabulary, you should have the general knowledge. So I learn the basic structures of a language, and then I try to read as much as possible so that I learn how the people in that language express themselves, how certain things are said. Because, the expressions are not verbatim. You cannot translate everything word by word. So I try to improve my comprehension as much as possible. And the more I improve my comprehension, the more my production improves. Because think about this. If your tank is bigger and full, you can have more millage, right?
Yep.
You can go a far longer route. So I try to fill up my tank as much as possible. That way, I can have conversation on a range of topics. For example, I'm a non-native speaker of English, but I've read and studied extensively, probably more than a native student would do, because I've read, technology, psychology, computer science, linguistics, in some cases law. I've been reading the news for years, like from BBC, from the New York Times and Wall Street journals and stuff. So the more I read and the more I learn about the world, the general workings of the language and so on, the more I'm exposed to language, the higher my mastery.
Yeah. Do you know another question?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's really interesting you saying that. Another one is, so when I read English, so I can read Turkish, I can read English, I could speak Turkish, I could speak English, and I understand it, obviously, both. But I'd say my English is probably better in terms of reading, because when I read English, one, it's faster. Definitely I could read it in a more fast way. But also I understand it. With Turkish, I may have to read the paragraph twice to understand it. How could you get better by, is it just constantly reading? Like, for example, read more Turkish books? Because I don't really read Turkish books. The only time I read Turkish is like on online, like about the elections and news about Galatasaray transfers and stuff like that. Maybe,
well, it's a very good question, and there are two sides to this. So, the first one, although you speak Turkish as your mother tongue, I guess English is your dominant language, right? Which one do you feel confident? In which language do you feel more confident?
I'd say English.
English, because you use it more, you read it more, you listen to it more, you watch it more. Most cases, because you use it on a day-to-day basis, because it's the means through which you earn your life, right?
Yeah.
In your job. So your exposure. Language is really about exposure, like how much you take in a certain language. And in your case, like if we compare Turkish and English, English probably has 60 or 70% of your attention or your time, and that leaves Turkish a little weak. So if you do not read extensively in a certain language, as reading, like day-to-day conversation can be really improved by talking to our friends, but reading, academic reading about formal subjects requires extensive work. So, for example, you said you had to read twice to understand it, right?
Yeah.
In some cases. If the text is dense, you might even need to read it 3 times or with the help of dictionary. So if you want to improve your reading skills in Turkish, you should focus on short texts. They don't have to be very long. For example, a single paragraph or half page and so on. You should read that text extensively with the help of a Turkish dictionary. Trying to really, it's like you should approach like learning a new language.
Yeah.
For example, I imagine you mostly skip words or try to predict the meaning of words when you're reading Turkish, right? You don't really bother looking up a word in a dictionary, do you?
No, not really.
Not really, because...
But I learned a new word yesterday.
Yeah, sure.
I was talking about sailing. In Croatia, we were sailing on a boat. And I was like, what's sailing in Turkish? And then the guys, my brother-in-law said, yelken.
Yeah.
So I learned a new word.
Okay, that's great. See, that's great. You're always learning. So in your case, you can also approach Turkish as a foreign language. You can treat it as such because there are areas of improvement. There are gaps in your vocabulary, because, for example, there are things that you've never experienced in Turkish. And there are things that because most of your life is experienced in English.
Yeah.
But there are things maybe you have not experienced in Turkish. Right?
Yeah.
You've not used Turkish
so you don't know the vocab.
Cases.
You don't know
and you don't know the vocab for those cases.
And I won't look up, you're right, I wouldn't look up on a dictionary. Because why? I'm confident speaking Turkish.
You feel, okay, I can get by.
Yeah.
And that's the natural thing to feel. But to advance your command of the language, you will have to treat it as a different language. And you would have to spend time and effort to really... expand your vocabulary. If you do that, you'll be fine. But imagine this. Even as a Turkish speaker, if I don't read, my command of the language will go down.
Yeah.
Because then I will not be really... if I don't read anything in Turkish for a year, then my speech will be fine, I guess. But my writing and my reading abilities will deteriorate. They'll go down.
What about my... Sorry for cutting you. What about my Turkish accent? I want that to improve because people make fun of me here. It's better than the Turks from Germany.
It's much better.
The Turks from Germany, their Turkish is, really sucks. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, sometimes.
My Turkish is good, but my accent is really bad. Like you could tell.
Not really.
You could tell I'm from a different country.
Well, you can easily improve it, and there is a method to do that. It's very simple. It's called shadowing, and what you do is basically this. You listen to a conversation, a speech, or to a TV program in Turkish, and then you repeat what you hear as they say it. Okay, it's almost like you're an actor and you're impersonating someone.
Yes.
Okay?
You're right.
If you do it regularly, it will definitely help you speak much more confidently and speak much more like a native.
This is the problem with being bilingual, though, right? So
yeah.
If you know one language, you'll be a master at that language. But when you're bilingual or trilingual, for example, you're bilingual, you can't be master on both, can you?
You can.
Or can you? Is there no such thing where...
There are different types of...
Because, your English is amazing, and your Turkish is as well. So you're an exception, but...
Not really. There are different types of bilingualism. I don't remember the terms now, but there are 2 or 3 stages or types of bilingualism. One is like perfect bilingualism, in which the person has the perfect or high level command of both languages. The other one is sort of a different type of bilingualism where one language is very dominant, the other is less dominant. But the person, in your case, I think your case is an example of the second one. You have command of both languages, but one is more dominant than the other because you don't spend much time and effort on improving the other one.
Yeah.
And there is the most common type of bilingualism, the third type. One language is very dominant, the other one basically works but isn't great. Yeah. You don't have full mastery. And it's the bilingualism of most learners.
Okay. And what would you suggest in terms of improving at translating? Because I'm not that great translator. I know both languages really well, but to translate Turkish to English or English to Turkish, I kind of struggle.
Yeah. Well, it requires mastery of both languages. For example, translation is not really a matter of looking up a word in one language and then translating that single word into another language. Because language is made up of phrases. Languages are made up of phrases.
That's why Google Translate can't perfectly translate it, right?
But it's getting better and better.
Okay.
For example, in Turkish we have this phrase, geçmiş olsun. You cannot really translate it word by word into English, can you?
No, you can't.
No, right? For example, there is this saying, some people, well, it's an old saying, like it's raining cats and dogs, like it's like pouring and
Kedi ve köpek yağıyor.
Yeah, you cannot really say kedi ve köpek yağıyor because, you know, if you say that in Turkish, people will think like there is some sort of calamity or something, a catastrophe.
Yeah.
It would be very weird, right?
Yeah.
In that case, you would say, in Turkish we say bardaktan boşanırcasına yağıyor. There's a phrase for that. So,
these are called proverbs, right?
Yeah. Idioms, proverbs, and so on. So, in this case, your job as a translator is not to translate phrases or sentences word by word.
No.
But your job as a translator is to find a phrase that offers the same meaning in the other language. So in translation, there are some terms like source language and the target language. So if you're translating from English to Turkish, English is your source language and Turkish is your target language. So whatever you're translating in English, you divide it into sentences, and maybe in some cases you divide sentences into parts like phrases, words, and so on. And you try to convey the same meaning in the other language. In some cases, it's possible to simply translate the words and like adjust the grammar and you'll be fine. But in many cases, there are like special uses, there are idiomatic expressions and so on. And in those cases, you will have to find an expression in the target language, in Turkish in this case, that gives the same meaning.
Okay, let's do a role play now. Okay. Give me something to translate, and I'll translate in English, and then I'll try again and translate in Turkish.
For example, let's start with something simple. Başım ağrıyor.
I have a headache.
Okay, see? In Turkish, I say ağrıyor. It's like paining or something. Mm-hmm. See? If you try to translate it word by word, it sucks, right? No. You can't do that. If I say my head is paining, I mean, you might have an idea of what I'm trying to say, but it sounds weird, right?
Even I have head pain. Yeah. It's not. No. It doesn't sound weird, but it's not common. No one uses pain. They say ache.
Yes. Yeah. That's the thing. So you have to find the phrase that people use.
Exactly.
For example.
But no one's gonna make fun of you if you say I have head pain.
That's true, but
this is the problem with Turks.
Sound weird.
Yeah, I know, but see, this is the problem. My cousin he lives in Ataşehir. His English is not too bad, but he practically is not there, and his grammar's even better than mine. And he was saying it himself. He was like, John, like, you guys won't make fun of us, right, when we speak in English and we're trying, to learn. I said, of course not. We'll, in fact, we will try and compromise and speak down to your level, so we could kind of understand each other. And he was like, you're right. So from now on, he's going to try and be more practical and speak, more often, just to master it,
That's true. And these are called collocations. Collocations are basically common phrases. So they're common phrases. For example, spend time is a common phrase. Like, you don't say, I don't know. You say spend time. Like,
spend time?
Yeah, to spend time doing something.
To spend time.
Yeah, it's a phrase, right?
Yeah.
It's a phrase. Like, if you're using time, you say, I'm spending my time on this, right? So these are called collocations. Let's see. But as I said, in order to improve your translation skills, for example, here's a master plan. If I were translating, for example, English laws into Turkish
laws.
Yes, what I would do is to first read all the English laws, learn the terms in English, learn the English legal system, and then next, I would not try to translate it. Then the next step would be to read the Turkish laws and the Turkish terms, the Turkish system, understand everything. So there are two spheres. One is Turkish, one is English. Yeah. I'll try to learn everything about both, and then translation would be much simpler because then I would know which one refers to which one, and I would be able to find the similarities and differences. I would know if I can translate this. For example, if I found something in the English document, since I am also aware of the Turkish system, I would say, okay, this term does not exist in Turkish. I cannot translate this. I will have to explain this, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very important to have an understanding of both systems to be able to translate. So in order to translate into Turkish, you should first improve your Turkish.
Yeah. I see.
That's the key step.
Thank you.
Well, thank you too. Well, I guess it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I also
And we should do this
it.
sometime soon again.
Yeah, well, when you're back.
Yeah.
So I guess you'll be back in a few months.
Inshallah.
Yeah, okay. We'll see you then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
Well, I guess our listeners will appreciate this because,
I hope they do.
Because some of your questions and the conversations we had, it really speaks to the challenges that they face or the questions that they might have. And I mean, personally, I've really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that our listeners will also enjoy it.
Inshallah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye guys,
Bye-bye.
and we'll see you in the next episode. And I'm not sure when we'll find John again, but we'll try to find him again.
Take care, guys. Keep going at it.